Hey, welcome to the Amplifyr Podcast. I'm your host, Aidan Hennebry. The Amplifyr Podcast exists at the intersection of marketing, sales, pricing, leadership, and entrepreneurship, where we have raw conversations with real people deep in the trenches. Today, I'm honored to be joined by my guests, Jon and Jessica Elliotson of Elliotson Music. Elliotson Music is a music school and studio based here in St. Thomas, Ontario. In this episode, we cover Jon and Jessica's histories of being musicians all across North America and their journey towards setting up their own studio. They're a fantastic couple, and if you have a soft spot for husband and wife teams like I do, you're especially going to love this episode. Without any further ado, let's get into it. All right, Jon, Jessica, welcome to the Amplifyr Podcast, you guys.
Thank you.
Hello.
It's good to be here.
I'm excited. This is the first time I've had two guests on the show at once, so thank you guys for suffering through some of this DIY nonsense.
No, this is great. This is a wonderful place. I as I said it when I came in here, I could spend a lot of time in here. There's a lot of cool things in here.
Yeah, our mutual friend Carter, when he came in here for the first time, he had asked if he could do some schoolwork in here, and he said for the first half hour he just had to sit and look around because he's like, there's just so much stuff.
I believe that
everywhere. Yeah, for 99 square feet, it I don't know, it feels very enclosed because there's so much stuff.
I was gonna say for 99 square feet, there's like miles and miles of imagination possibilities here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Just tell the story.
Oh, that's cool.
Cool. Well, okay. Thank you guys again for being on the show. Can you, for anyone listening today who doesn't know who you are, can you tell us about yourselves? Who are you? What do you do?
Well, so I'm Jon Elliotson, and my wife Jessica Elliotson. We run Elliotson Music in St. Thomas, Ontario, which is essentially a private music studio where we teach piano, violin, trumpet. We now do trombone, baritone, and theory, history. We do quite a bit. We've been in St. Thomas since 2023, although the business predates our move to St. Thomas. Kind of in a nutshell, that's basically what we do.
I like it. Can you guys give me just I know it's a long resume, but give me the shortest version of your musical backgrounds, because I think I know some of this, but some of the traveling and bands you guys have played in and things would just be fascinating for the people at home.
Sure. Do you want to start and then I'll talk about me? You talk about you, I'll talk about me. All right.
There's a intersecting moment too.
Yeah.
So, no, I started piano when I was 4, and then I started violin when I was 6, and piano was more required. I got my base knowledge of music that way, and I'm really thankful for that. It just set me up for success, I think. And then violin quickly became my sole instrument. I just felt like I could express myself so much there. And then decided to go to school for music. I had some options, but decided now's the time. Before going to plan B, I guess. But it paid off. I went to Wilfrid Laurier University for my undergrad, and then took a year off, and then went to the Glenn Gould School at the Royal Conservatory of Canada in Toronto for my orchestral diploma. So kind of like a master's program. And then after that, stayed in Toronto. I graduated when COVID hit, essentially. And so stayed in Toronto for a little bit. We had already met by that point. And then we did a lot of orchestral stuff outside of my undergrad too. Okay. It's typical for musicians to do summer programs. So that's where we ended up meeting. I did the National Youth Orchestra of Canada 3 summers, and then also did a summer at the National Academy Orchestra, which is based in Hamilton, and then 1 summer in Aspen, Colorado, at the Aspen Music Festival and School. So school for 6 years straight.
Brought it all home to Ontario after all that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
So for me, it's kind of a similar upbringing. Started piano when I was 3. I started playing trumpet when I was 8.
You come from a very musical family.
Yeah.
Jessica, is your family also very musical? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
piano at 4. I'm thinking of my 3-year-old, and he's a hurricane. So I'm like, just to imagine a child that young learning piano, I have mad respect. So I was curious if you both had musical families. Sorry.
Yeah, no. So I'm the last of 5 kids, and the joke in our family was that piano was mandatory and trumpet was compulsory. And my dad got a lot of mileage out of that joke, actually. So. And there may be a few other anecdotes in there. So anyway, but yeah, so piano at 3, trumpet at 8. I actually remember playing my dad's trumpet. My dad was a fabulous trumpet player in his day, and also quite a good educator. And I remember playing his trumpet without permission. And trumpet's not a subtle instrument. There's no way I can sneak that. And so I'm in the basement, and I'm just honking away, right? And I've watched all of my siblings play. My mom and dad actually played a lot. That was I grew up watching their ministry, which was playing trumpet and music and in churches all over Ontario. And he came down the stairs, and we'll put it this way. I didn't do it again. I didn't play my dad's trumpet again without permission. We didn't do that. So anyway, but I grew up watching my sibs play piano, and trumpet, and I wanted to play trumpet. And so I started playing trumpet, and eventually there was a point where I made a statement on my grade 8 piano exam that finally kind of demonstrated my desire to move away from piano and into the trumpet realm. So, and then I got paid for my first trumpet gig at 14 with my dad, and I was like, why are people giving me money for this? Dad said that's what you can do, and I was hooked ever since. Went to Toronto at age 18, played with the Hennebry Youth Band, which was it's a youth program underneath a parent program called the Hannaford Street Silver Band. It's Canada's only professional brass band. It's where I met my first teacher outside of my dad, Anita McAllister, shout out. And that's where I really started to develop. Went to the University of Toronto for a couple of years. Took a year off. Then I went to the Glenn Gould School as well, which has a high quality trumpet program, brass program really. And that's where I was able to get into the National Youth Orchestra of Canada for the first time. I played with the Toronto Symphony for the first time. I eventually won my first job at a school with the Kingston Symphony. And there's the whole audition scene and competition scene, which is that's my bad. I love to compete. I love to audition. And I actually had a student take gold at the St. Thomas Music Festival last week, which is it was such a blast. I just prepping him for competition. It was great. Anyway, National Youth Orchestra of Canada, I was there in 2016, 2017, and 2018, which is when we met. And what a way to start a relationship by touring Europe and Scotland.
Playing great music.
And that's okay. And then I guess we're kind of doing an overview here. When the pandemic hit, the first things to go were restaurants and performance venues, and so all of our work kind of dried up. Even me having a position with the Kingston Symphony, the work drastically reduced because we just weren't able to gather, and so I had to figure out, what we're going to do to bring in the pay the bills. And I neglected to say one thing. I joined the reserves in the Canadian Armed Forces in 2012. So my first professional gig as a trumpet player was playing in the ceremonial guard band in Ottawa. And then I was in the military from that point. And then in 2021, I applied for a component transfer to the regular force as a musician. So then we got posted to Quebec, and it was a pretty poor fit. We can get into it, but I actually ended up getting injured, and so I wasn't able to play the trumpet anymore. I'm on the road to recovery, so the injury piece is kind of there's a substantial amount of story there, you might say. And so that was what kicked me kind of into the teaching realm ultimately. And I can look back at, the injury was devastating. However, I can look back and see the fruit from that and the goodness from that. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the long and short of it. I told you I can ramble, man.
I love it. No, this is good. So part of where I'm going with this is I'm excited because I've known snippets of your guys' histories. And so it seems both of you clearly from a young age were destined to play music. Do you think you were always destined to start a music school? Because it's clear that there's lots of different places that you can play professionally and lots of different things you can do. Was a music school always on the radar? Is music school the right term?
Yeah, studio.
Okay. All right, just making sure I'm not insulting.
No. I think people can get confused sometimes when you say music studio to think like, oh, you got a recording studio, and like,
it's true.
No.
Yeah.
That's a whole different
Very
field.
different.
It's like 10 years from now.
I'm not sure that's what I meant. But the term is when you take music instruction from somebody, you belong to their studio. That's kind of like the higher class term.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we left, I guess, that term off of the name, like Elliotson Music. I had played around with, well, should we call it Elliotson Music Studio? Mm-hmm. But I think we wanted to just keep it as an open-ended thing because Elliotson Music is more than just lessons. I think, especially since we also are freelance, like individuals, like our own businesses outside of the studio too. So at least on our Instagram, we can have a platform for whatever we want to share on there rather than like keeping it just really closed off. So that's, But yeah, studio, I would say studio is most.
And so to go back to your question, I think all musicians, all performing musicians teach to some extent.
Okay.
And so I don't think that I certainly had not thought about doing a music studio or music school. My dad did that. He leaned much more into the education route. The rationale was he wanted to have a family. You can have a family and perform, so you just choose what you're going into. But I think to some extent, every performing musician is going to do a bit of teaching. But I think she had the primary drive to make something her own. Mm-hmm. Maybe you could speak into that a little bit more.
Yeah. I kind of have always been involved with working with kids.
Okay.
I was also a competitive gymnast until grade 11. So spending 25 hours in the gym training a week plus coaching. And so I really got to know how to work with kids while I was doing that. And then my music was growing on the side. So
but you said till grade 11? That's
till grade 11.
Busy grade 11 student. That's...
Oh, yeah. That's a whole...
overwhelming.
I did a lot of stuff. I'm really grateful. Like, it shaped me into, who I am today. Anyways, yeah. So I had always worked with kids, but in the back of my mind was always like, I'm never, like, I don't want to teach for the rest of my life. Like, and I think there was like a little bit of a naivety in that, like just not knowing what a great opportunity it was and how it can open so many different pathways too. So I think as a musician, you just have to be okay with multiple doors open. There's not necessarily always just like, okay, I'm going to win my big job and that's going to be that, which I think the music school, like university level, really intense schools don't do the best job of showing you how to be a musician, where you can build so many different aspects of what a musician is. It's not just it doesn't look one way.
Yeah.
And so I think they're getting better at it, which is really great, like advocating for like how to brand yourself as a business and then all the different avenues you can take in that. But it kind of hit me in Quebec when we were there, when you were struggling with your injury and I was there and I hadn't made many connections yet freelance wise. They came later and I got to work a lot in Quebec City, which was really great. I kind of got a taste for what working as a full-time orchestral musician would be like. I took 2 auditions and I realized the audition process is not for me. That's definitely more your, like, that's what fires you up. And for me, I was like, I don't really feel like I'm getting a ton of human interaction doing this. Just practicing by myself and then showing up and then whatever the result may be. So it kind of hit me, especially with the pandemic and what that did to our work. Like, I want to build something that I'm in control of, that I can kind of plan ahead and grow it, and that's ours. And I had already been teaching online through COVID. I had about 20 or so hours of work, 20 to 25 hours of teaching work online only through like the whole pandemic, which was what kept me going. So I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna shun this thing. Like, this has actually been the best thing for me.
Yep, steady, I imagine, predictable, yeah.
Predictable, and was slowly starting to build policies and a structure and how to like get clients to come back, and like there was going to be longevity in it. It wasn't just, oh, while I'm in school in Toronto, I'm going to take on some students. It became a much more like feasible long-term.
So that was going to be my question, was like, was there a turning point where you guys like look at each other and you both, the light bulb goes off at the same time and you're like, oh, we definitely need to go all in on this? Or was it more gradual where you're like, oh, we start making policies, we're like, oh, we could kind of scale this up? Like, walk me through that kind of, that turning point, or if it was a very gradual turn or a harsh turn.
I think it was, I had a light bulb moment, and then I started designing our website and kind of dreaming about what the brand could look like.
I remember distinctly. Okay.
Let's hear it.
So I was working for the Royal 22nd Regiment in Quebec City, or Valcartier, so outside of Quebec City. And so I was going to work trying to just survive because I was working through my stuff, and so I was very distracted. But I remember her coming up to me one day. She's like, "I think I'm gonna go for a music studio.
I think I know what I want to do."
Yeah, and I think I'm gonna go for it. I'm like, all right, let me know how I can help. And a year later, I turn around and she's got this machine developed. Like, I'm not kidding you, man. Like, so the website, professional level, like, boom, done. And then I look and there's a platform we use called My Music Staff, where like music teachers manage their studios. And it's very comprehensive, and it's very, I think comprehensive is the word for it. Like, it's all encompassing.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know these things existed, but she just knew how to like find it. And so I remember she said that. I said, let me know how I can help. And then a year later, she had this very robust business model, machine, policies, all of this stuff was put together. And I was like, seriously, if I can help, like,
I meant give me something
it's like,
to do.
Do you need me? Anyway, so that was it was a very quiet, under the radar, and then suddenly explosive kind of thing that happened from my perspective.
Well, it was born out of like, I wasn't as busy in Quebec City. It was just born out of a place of like, what do we do next? And so that's what kept me busy. And then when we did end up deciding to come back to Ontario, we didn't know what that was going to look like, except for the fact we wanted to move and be close to family. Like, I grew up in St. Thomas, and we were looking in London, and then God was like, here's a house for really cheap rent in St. Thomas. Yeah. We're like, okay. Kind of see where you're going with that. And it was like, obviously very much in his plans for us in a much broader sense than just being able to build a music studio. I think this is where, he led us to be here. So, and then at that point, once you were still working through your injury and stuff, and then you came on in a more, in a bigger way. I
think one of the things for me, I was very much in a box in my mind, musically speaking. So being in the audition mindset, you kind of like, perfection is not possible, but you're still going for it, right? And it's a very frustrating thing, but it's kind of insidious because it's again, kind of under the radar. No, perfection doesn't exist, but you have to be.
But for me, it does.
Well, it's not even that like, okay, I'm perfect and therefore I can audition, but it's like, I have to be squeaky clean, expressive, no mistakes, all this kind of thing, all the while trying to lie to yourself that you're not actually trying for perfection, because it doesn't. Anyway, bizarre kind of mind twist there. Where was I going with that? So I thought myself in the box musically. I'm only a trumpet player. If it's not perfect, it's not worth anything, right? Which is so not true. And you'd think I'd know this after playing trumpet for however long it's been, but it still kind of sneaks up on you. That's kind of the insidiousness of it. But there was a point where Jess we were sitting down in a business meeting at some point. I can't remember when, but she was like, obviously your ideal student is trumpet. Yeah, obviously. Yeah, totally. Okay. What else is ideal? Well, probably high school. Okay. So primarily the thing that we're probably going to build the business on is young piano students. I'm like, I don't want to do that. Cause I'm in a box still. And she goes, you got to do it. You can do it. Right. I'm like, I'm not sure that I'm very good with little kids. I'm not sure how good I am at piano. I have my grade 8, but it's been years. And she goes, you can teach little kids how to play piano. You can do it. It's only a half an hour. I'm like, okay. So I started being open to the idea of teaching piano. And the other thing that, so that kind of undid one side of the box for me and kind of let myself out. And I think you and I have actually had this conversation before. When I started serving at church was another kind of side of the box, because Pete asked me to play, Pete, our worship director, for those of you, hey Pete, he asked me to play bass. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I've got my QL3 and electric bass from the military. I can do that. That's another story. And I didn't care what anybody thought about my bass playing, because I'm like, I'm not professionally trained. So there's no expectation for me to be, whatever. But then I actually really enjoyed it, and I started like pressing into it. So then I started thinking, this thought clicked for me, was like, I'm still a musician. I may not be able to play the trumpet at this point in time because of whatever injury, or to my standard, or whatever, right? But that doesn't mean everything I've learned over the last 32 years, okay, starting right from when I started at age 3, all that time hasn't contributed to some sort of knowledge base, right? Everything that I've learned contributes to anything I do musically. And then, anyway, so yeah, I'll spare kind of the further details, but for me, and in terms of where I've started participating with the studio, I started kind of rediscovering myself as a musician again, which was really cool.
I like this. It's interesting that you're talking into identity, right? Because for you, even just to operationally within the business, you had to kind of unlock that, and just it sounds like that was more natural for you to kind of step into that. But I'm curious then about even the transition in your identity into business owners, right? And so, having conversations about revenue and students and pricing conversation, everything around that, branding, right? Again, Jess, it sounds like you were very conscious of that from the very beginning, to be like, even down to our name, how do we want to position ourselves so that we are or are not attracting a certain type of audience, right? Was that transition into, okay, we are business owners, this is what we do, and we need to, at least at times, think of this like a business and not just like a hobby that earns us money. Was that a difficult thing? Walk me through that.
I remember another distinct moment where we were hanging out. It was my best friend's wedding rehearsal dinner for his wedding. Yeah. We were in Banff. And it was actually the first time I had met one of my trumpet students who I'd only taught virtually. He lives in Louisiana, and I'd been teaching him for a few years, and then finally got to meet him at my buddy's wedding, because his wife, it's her cousin. Anyway, so that was really cool, getting to meet somebody who you've never met before, but you've taught for years. Anyway, we were at the rehearsal dinner, and so people kind of knew about us and knew about our teaching, and conversations were there. And then it's like, this is John. Oh, hi, I'm Jess. What do you do? Well, we own a music school. It's the first time I'd ever heard her say it. And I was like, oh yeah, we do. What? So that was kind of a light bulb moment for me. I don't know if you have anything different.
No, I remember that.
Yeah.
And I remember us talking about how it felt kind of imposter syndrome-y.
Absolutely, yep.
Because you have this idea built in your head, but maybe it's not built to fruition yet of what you want it to be. But you have to step into those shoes of we're on our way, and the only way we're going to get there is if we start acting like it's
we had to
for real.
Absolutely.
So I remember some conversations, even when we first started attending RBC church, like just introducing ourselves and the switch too from, oh, well, I'm a professional violinist or I'm a professional trumpet player. It's like, we're professional musicians and we own our own music studio. We own and run a music studio. It was like, it's just a different mindset, but it felt really good. Like,
Yeah.
I think I had, prior to maybe your kind of moment of, oh, like, that's how we're going to start describing ourselves. I think I had been influenced by a bunch of really awesome studio owners that I respect a lot in the Toronto area, who I had taken some like online courses from, who just boosted that like side of it, the owning it side of it for me, where I could step into it more confidently. And then, I mean, now it just feels very organic.
Yeah, now it's just daily life, right?
But it was a little strange at first.
There's a book up there. It's by Napoleon Hill. It's called Think and Grow Rich. And it's like, it was written in like the 30s or something. And I've read it. Some of it's outdated and some of it's kind of, it'll make you laugh. But there's a lot of like still pretty good principles in there. But the first time I read it, I stopped after like chapter 3 because I'm like, this is the stupidest crap ever. Because what he was talking about, some would call it manifestation, and I still don't believe in manifestation.
Right.
But when he was talking about specifically becoming rich, title of the book, he was saying like, you basically like every morning you wake up, every night you go to bed, you need to like sit on the edge of your bed. I could be making this up. This is my recollection of it. Sit on the edge of your bed, close your eyes, hold your hands out, and just imagine that you are holding the money in your hands. Like you have succeeded. You've gotten there. You need to like embody that success, even though you are not there yet. And so he's saying, and that's how you'll get rich. I'm like, well, I don't think it's that simple, man. But anyway, so that was why I stopped. And eventually, though, I returned to it, and I kind of pressed through that, and then it got much better, and there was more interesting things, and, you know, chew the meat, spit out the bones. But that idea, right, of like, you have to kind of, it's fake it till you make it, right? Like believe, oh yeah, we are this thing, and we need to present that to the world, and then it will become more real even for ourselves as we do it, right?
Yeah. And it's so hard as a musician, man, because we grew up in an environment where we are constantly seeking outside validation of whether we're good enough or not. So you go to a lesson, you practice for the lesson, weekly lessons, an hour and a half or whatever it might be. And you show up and you either have a great lesson where you know you put the work in, you know, you did a good job, you played well. Your teacher's like, yeah, great. Like that's, and you walk away feeling like you're just like, okay, now I know I'm good.
Yep.
Even though you were like, you put the work in, you didn't necessarily need that outside validation, but that's just what we're so used to. Oh, yeah. And so starting something that's your own, like the entrepreneurship side of it, it really gets like, I love that. And I felt so, I guess, empowered to be able to be like, this is something I'm building on my own, still using all the musical stuff that I've gathered.
Your product.
And
yeah, of course.
But like, I can make it whatever I want it to be. And we can also shape our overall goal for it, and our, not just our vision for us and ourselves, but because we're active with children and in children's lives, and not just children, we have quite a big range of ages. It's like, that's when we really started, I think, getting into like our, what are we doing? We know we're doing more than just stepping into this, oh, we own this and do this. It became a lot more. Anyways.
Yeah, I think for me too, it was, I was starting to get kind of tired of working for other people. And there's been a number of environments where I haven't agreed with the how do I say this? Like, I'll put it this way. I wanted to be in a position where I could treat people how I felt was right to treat people. And there was a distinct shift, I think, too, like in counseling with Cody. He said, as soon as you stop serving people and stop serving the Lord, you're in a lot of trouble. And I can look back and see that that's completely true. So in auditioning, you're trying to, and I fell into this trap of just like, I want the position, I want the status, I want the renown, I want the exterior validation of having this wicked awesome chair in a big orchestra. And that is primarily self-serving. Notice I didn't mention audience once. And that's who we're playing for. Okay. That's a problem. But now it's like teaching a 7-year-old kid piano, that's really just a vehicle for development of a larger sort. And that became very meaningful for me. And so that's when I started to notice, teaching a few kids from our church, I started realizing, this is far more than just a music lesson, which is where our tagline, I don't know, slogan, I don't know what you call it.
What is it?
More than a music lesson. So Elliotson music, more than a lesson. And I've actually started saying music's good for everyone. Whether you can play at a high level and win a job, or you can't play yourself out of a wet paper bag, the act of studying, the participation in that kind of activity is good for everyone at whatever level.
Yeah, I remember we were sitting just across the table
here in St. Thomas,
undoing kind of like our days, like just going through our teaching evening, and we were talking about it, and just like the psychology behind a music lesson. And I was like, it is so much more than a music lesson. And then we looked at each other and we were like, that's it.
It was perfect, because our last slogan was like, developing well-rounded musical individuals through the vehicle of music, and it was like, true. Oh, it's so true. But I mean, for advertising and marketing purposes, more than a music lesson was beautiful. We actually just started giggling because we were like, that's so good.
Yeah, we were just really happy with it. Just summed up.
It really does.
Yeah, it's satisfying when you feel like you've hit that balance of like short, catchy, representative, unique to you.
True.
And like also speaks to a greater purpose, right? Which is a really interesting thing that I'm embarrassed to admit I wouldn't have, at least until this conversation, like really thought of what you do in that way, right? And I think that, I mean, the marketer in me is like, ooh, let's squeeze that for all it's worth, right? And that, you got to also be careful if you're saying, oh, we do really great philosophical, wonderful things, that you don't then oversell it and take all the wonderfulness out of it, right? Do you guys, is that a balance for you? Like, because I would imagine that, especially when you're talking to parents or, potential new students, like you're trying to convey like, hey, you might just be thinking, I want to learn guitar or trumpet or piano, but in the end, what they will actually take out of it can be so much more than that, especially depending on how they engage with you. But are you aware, like what's your consciousness level of conveying all the other stuff when you're communicating with someone about what you do?
Well, so our model is, especially since we teach out of our home, we have a consult online. And in that consult, I think we just aim to be super transparent about all the kind of paperwork aspects of things. So we talk about tuition up front. We talk about expectations up front. But then we also aim to make a connection with, usually we have the kid and the parent on the call, if that's the scenario.
Yep.
And we aim to make a connection with the kid over the phone call right away. And just whether we can ask them, like, what do you like to do out of school? Like, what's your favorite subject in school? All these questions, just figure out who they are as a person, because that's really who we care the most about. We're going to be teaching you music, and we want you to excel at that. But we want you to excel at being a competent human being with skills that you can take for life. So I think the balance is we try to, I don't know. It's so hard to, you can maybe speak
Sure.
to that.
I think, like, to kind of go to your question, like, how conscious are we of hitting all of these things in a lesson, or, that we carry? I think we're guided by our intuition, and I mean, we just try to live a certain way anyway. Being Christians dictates a lot of that. Not dictates, but like as Christians following Christ, we're trying to do that anyway.
Yeah, you're naturally predisposed. Yeah.
So to speak. We could go at length into that.
That's a rabbit hole.
Yeah. When you do a theology podcast. Anyway, but no, like I think we genuinely care about people.
Yeah.
We genuinely do love music. We genuinely see the value in teaching people music. I think what also gives us a bit of an edge is we are relational people. And so like, again, like, yes, we teach music, but we're teaching people. We're actually hanging out with people. So yeah, so in our consultations, we like I the way I do them anyway. I don't sit in on her, so I don't know how she does them. She's pretty good though, I hear. Anyway, I prime it, like I'll say, here's how this consult works. I'm going to ask child or prospective student, a bunch of questions just to get to know them. And if it's a really good fit, then we'll talk, they're dismissed, and then parent and I will talk about the finer details. How does that sound? Okay, great. And so then I'm just focused on making connection with these kids. So if they like to play video games, we're going to get along well. If they like to play sports, we're going to get along really well. And if they already have like a song in mind, this is pretty tertiary, but like if they've already got a song in mind, like it's going to be a great fit. And it's going to be like, I've never had a consultation go bad that way. And that's, that tertiary thing is not a requirement. And often they're just like, I don't know, the Minecraft song or whatever it is.
Yeah, for real.
Or Super Mario, or whatever, Peaches from the Super Mario movie. Yeah. Anyway, but again, like, I don't think I'm very conscious about much, except the relationship is the primary driving motivator, and I want that to be positive. The other thing, so there are kind of three things that have to stay intact when maintaining a positive relationship with client.
Ongoing.
Okay. Ongoing. So three things, three relationships that have to stay intact. This is my own kind of methodology. Kid and music, the relationship has to stay intact, or it has to be positive. Kid and teacher, that relationship has to be positive, has to be intact. Kid and parents have to remain intact. So my dad and I, very challenging relationship, because I think we didn't have that. So student, kid and parent, that was fractured early on for me. So I'm very passionate about that. If I one day am lucky enough to be a father, that is something I'm going to put as primary focus, right? And anytime one of those three relationships starts to be affected in a negative way, there needs to be a conversation and there needs to be an adjustment. That's not that like every kid finds music boring at some point. Mm-hmm. So you have to press through that at some point, because nothing worth having is easy. But there has been a couple instances where, okay, we need to talk about this, and perhaps it's necessary to put a pause on lessons for now. Mm-hmm. And that's always, it doesn't happen often, because we try to, we're a problem solver group at Elliotson Music. But there's been a couple times where I'm like, okay, we need to put a pause here. And then, maybe the kid likes karate more than music. Maybe the kid likes baseball more than music. Cool. Yeah. That's fine. And because we're not focused on making the best musicians or focused on, creating a legacy for our studio, we're not overly concerned with those things. And so if it turns out that I'm not a good fit for a kid, so be it. Let's find the good fit for the kid. Yeah. Because it's not about me. It's not about music. It's actually about the kid, or the student, I should say, because we don't just teach kids. Yeah.
That's, man, such a powerful thought. And it reminds me, I've had the good fortune of working for some really great people over the years. And one time, the company I was at, our sales team was on a retreat. And so we were doing like a big sales meeting, which traditionally you would talk about how were our numbers for the past year and where are things at and what do we need to focus on next year and so on and so forth. But my leader at the time, he took a very different approach. Where we ended up talking for those couple of days about us as people and like our identities and how we related to the work that we did and how we believed or didn't believe how the work we did, the products we sold, whatever, impacted the lives of our customers. And we talked a lot about vulnerability and honesty and dealing with the crap that all of us carry around in one way, shape, or form. And it was just so profoundly different than what you'd think for a sales meeting. And I remember, the philosophy behind it was so clear that if we hit all of our numbers as a sales team, but everyone is burnt out and miserable and hates each other and hates the company, we have completely failed our goal. And again, I was fortunate enough that my leader made that abundantly clear to everyone. And so many people were literally weeping to be like, I've never worked at a company that cared about anything other than what I could do for the bottom line.
Yeah.
And so to know that I'm in an environment where of course there are still expectations of numbers and performance and all those things, but to work at a company where at least on some level I'm cared about as a human being, beyond just what I can contribute positively, is super impactful, right? And so I hear that in what you guys are saying. They're like, yeah, music's great, love it, we've dedicated our lives to it, we've made a career out of it, music's great, 2 thumbs up. But also, if you hate this or there's fractured relationships, what a powerful framework. Also, those 3 relationships, right? And it even speaks to, I had friends growing up that their parents forced them into piano lessons. I'm sure you guys know this better than me, right? Forced them into piano lessons, hated it, finished grade 8. Similarly, that was the checkpoint that they were allowed to quit. They quit for 10 years, and then once in a while I see on Instagram learning to love the piano again. And so the musician in me is like, yes, that's the best, right? Yeah. Piano's awesome. Music is awesome. But it made me so sad that it was so forced and so fractured that it lost that along the way, right? So I don't even know where I'm going with this, but I'll say, I hear it and I love it.
Yeah. I will say this, I was hanging out with a friend, and they'd ask me, do you force kids into, they were talking about their own kids. Do I just force my kid to do piano? Do I just force them through it? Do I force them through it? And they were kind of talking for a little bit, and I was eating a wing at the time. So I'm just I'm enjoying my wing, just, whatever. And I said, I would give every ounce of musical ability I have in my body for a good relationship with my dad.
Wow.
I would. Right? Yeah. So I just, that's just kind of my framework. And so I'm not willing to sacrifice relationship over product. I'm just not.
Well, I think, again, sorry, Jess, you go ahead.
I have nothing.
Taking a deep breath.
Good.
I think it speaks so much to the integrity of what you guys do. And so, again, it's hard to turn off the marketer brain in me, but I'm lean into that, right?
Sure.
And why, that's also, that's why it's your slogan. But also it's not just a slogan, it is a core tenet and pillar of your business, right? And I love that. I think that is so cool. If we can rewind the conversation a little bit, I would love to hear you guys talk more about your consultation process, because as you guys are talking about it, obviously, as a business owner myself, I've got a consultation process, but I remember especially when I was a wedding photographer and I worked with my wife and we would do consultations together for quite a while. We had just this framework that over the years was just honed in. I had jokes that I would make at key intervals, and I'd always, as a comedian does, present it like it was the first time and I was just thinking of it off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Right. And the couple would laugh and Leanne would laugh, but she wasn't laughing along with the joke, she was laughing at me because I'm so funny and I just improvised this on the spot.
I relate.
I'm very familiar.
I just the way you guys look at each other, I'm I see some of this stuff right there. I love it. So walk me through your consultation process and kind of, especially even if you want to talk about whether that's the evolution of it or, I think I even love just a little bit you shared about how hey, let's do a connection with the kid if it's a child.
Yeah.
Let's do that right away and then dismiss them, because even I'm thinking of that as a dad, that I'm man, even my daughter, who's a great listener and a good kid, would absolutely get bored to tears if it was adults were talking about money and contracts and cancellation policies, right? So walk me through the process and how you got there.
It kind of came from a necessity to vet people before we let them into our home. So I think one of the first ones I did was in Quebec City, which was a whole other kind of game, because at that time we were our sales marketing, I guess, was kind of teaching music lessons in English to French speaking people. It's evolved over time quite a bit.
I forgot about that.
We had a lot of like English speaking students who we taught
Okay.
Florida, Seattle, Louisiana, Toronto. I still have a number of students in Toronto that I met in person at the time.
We got to circle back to the internationalness of your business too, which is also just so fascinating. And by the way, if you can hear the construction guys demolishing trees out there, I apologize.
All right, everybody's got to work, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You got to make a buck, right? So anyway, sorry, I'm cutting you off. Please.
It's okay. So yeah, I think one of the first consults I did, it was very strange. Like it felt so weird. I had kind of a model to go off of, which was I want to make sure I talk about everything up front, so that I don't like confrontation, and I will avoid hard topics to try not to talk about them. So I end up putting things off, and then things get unclear. And so one of our slogans has also become "Clear is kind," which is...
You always laugh at me when I say that because you think I'm making fun of you.
I taught you guys that.
No, you did not.
It's fun. You know what?
However,
an intersection of beliefs.
You know what, though? Actually, Jess, that's so funny that you bring up that phrase, because one time when I said that, you turned to me and said, but you can be clear and unkind. And I was like, and so that's right. Always like accompanied that in my mind now as like the little asterisk that I'm like, you can be clear and unkind, but you know, avoid that in order to be clear and kind. So, anyways, that's just like a small thing that you misses in my life, just so you know.
Misses the point of the overall phrase. It's supposed to make. It's like over communicating is not always a waste of time. Like sometimes, like, hey, I'm just gonna say this so that we're all on the same page because that's kind. Like that's. Anyway, I digress.
There's whenever you take a idea and you put it down into very few words, it always needs more. But anyways,
generalization, absolutely.
But it's pretty to the point, which is good. Anyways,
sorry.
So that first consult was really weird, but I think it set us up for like the more you do, the more comfortable you get. And actually, I think at first you maybe weren't as like I did some of your consults, or I did all the consults at first actually, and then I would say because my studio became full, my teaching nights were full before his were, and so I said, actually I think it would be great if you did the consults so that we could have that teacher-student connection between you and your potential student right away. So then you took over, and it's one of your favorite things to do now.
It's actually my favorite.
You love
thing.
consults.
I do. So my process is essentially, so somebody goes to our website, they click the contact form for the free consultation, we get the email, we set up a time, we send out a Zoom link. We don't give our home address right away. Because again, we're just like, I don't know who you are, right? And so out of protection for our family, we're just going to take this slow. So anyway, then we hop on the Zoom call, and I'm pretty clear. It's like, hey, how are you guys doing? Good to see you. And who is this? You know, who's this young man or young lady? You know, blah, blah, blah. Kind of make them feel important, right?
Yeah.
And because they are, right? And so, okay, so here's how these consultations typically work. And I've learned to be clear right up front, because I remember it was like awkward at first. It's like, okay, so like, do you have any questions? I'm like, no, I don't even know what to ask is what they, you know?
They don't know what to ask.
They're just ignorant, right?
Well, they just don't know, right? And so anyway, so I'm like, so this is how these typically work. Me and little Timmy are going to have a conversation, got a bunch of questions, going to get to know each other. And then after that, you'll be dismissed. And I try to speak directly to them as opposed to talking about them. And so, you'll be dismissed. Thank you very much. And then your mom or dad and I will have a final. How does that sound? You know, like, yeah, that sounds great. Okay, awesome. So then we go. So how old are you? Or when's your birthday? Because this is actually one of the things that I do is I'll try and guess their age based on the year that they were born in the month. I usually get it wrong, and it's funny. At least that's what I think. So anyway, so that's one thing I do. So you must be 11. Oh, 12. Shoot. Okay, my math is really bad. And then, whatever. And then go through and we talk about, what do you guys like to do as a family? Do you play any sports? Do you read? Do you like to build? Do you do arts and crafts? Do you play with Lego? I'm a big Lego guy now. Christmas was a bit crazy. I see my Lego shelf. Anyway, and then we talk about music. It's like, have you ever played piano before? Have you ever played trumpet before? Do you play any other instruments? Do you have any other music? Who's your favorite artist? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, hey, that's the last of my questions. Thanks for answering them. It's really good to get to know you. I think we're going to have a great time together.
There's a lot of rapport building.
Yeah. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks very much. You're dismissed. And then I said, so now based on where we're at with parent, it's like, do you have any questions for me? Like I can go through the policies, the fee structure, whatever, but if you have any questions for me at this point, I'd be glad to answer them. And usually they have one or two. And so we had done some consulting with a couple of other businesses that primarily help music studios grow. And one of the practices is that they delay talking about fees as much as possible. Yep. I don't like doing that. I would rather lose a client than feel like I'm trying to sell them something they don't need.
So that doesn't fit for them.
Right.
And that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. If some salespeople will talk about try to kill the deal early. Like if there are reasons this isn't going to work out, there's a good chance that I'm not going to be able to sweet talk you out of them. So let's just find that out before we waste each other's time. And then like a half hour, an hour, you're willing to donate to someone, but like, that idea of like, okay, is there going to be a problem here? Right?
Well, and we don't have our fees publicly on our website. So when we do have people reach out, sometimes we have two ways they can reach out. A contact us, which is just you can ask us anything. So sometimes we'll have people asking for fee structure and all that stuff. Our policies are all online. And then I'll send that to them in an email. Yep, super happy to answer this question for you. But sometimes they'll fill out the booking form, which is where we hope they go so we can have a conversation about it. And then we tell them right up, like John has said, we tell them right at the beginning, here's how this is going to go, and we're going to get to the fees and policies at the end so that we can answer any questions you have and make sure this is the right fit. And then pretty much all the questions you have talked about that we go through, we have on a form. Like they're written down. We know what to ask. We're ready to, I'll change it. Like if I have an adult consultation, it's much more of a conversation like this. Like I could have kept talking to them for, an hour. Yeah. I'm like, okay, well, we're going to have great lessons together. So I'm pumped. And then we go into the stuff. But one of the questions we also ask is, if it's a parent and child, what are the parents' goals for the kids? Because like you said, so many people already have experience with music that might have been positive, maybe not. And they want to give their kids something else, but they're searching. They don't necessarily know what that looks like. So we often talk about the 3 relationships that have to stay intact. And we talk about how we are passionate about it being the right fit, and it's not about us. It's about the kid and their relationship with music. And so that usually comes up, and that's been overall completely positive. Like
to add to that too, I'll often ask the kids, so how much do you think you need to practice? And then I get them to try and set something for themselves. If it's 5 minutes a day, okay, let's start with that. No problem. If they say 20 minutes a day, I'm like, all right, that sounds great. Amazing. Yeah, let's start with that. And then it's like, practicing is not a requirement for a good relationship with me. You can reasonably expect the type of improvement that your practice demonstrates. That's not entirely a foolproof phrase, but essentially what I mean is if you put in 5 minutes every day, you'll get 5 minutes of improvement, or if you put in a half an hour every day, or if you put in 1 day of practice out of 7 and then you see me again for half an hour, it's not fair to expect that you'd be any good or better than you were. Good is a relative term, right? So you can't reasonably expect improvement if you're not putting in the time and effort. And, but am I going to make you feel bad about that? No, I'm just going to show you how it correlates, right? And then I'm always going to encourage you to practice because it's a good thing. Yeah. But I never make it a requirement for a good relationship.
I like that. So we don't need to actually discuss your fees, but the sales part of me is always curious with lessons like this. Is that a sticky point for whether that's parents or the person learning? Is that something that people pretty well adopt, easily? Was it difficult for you guys to figure out how to price yourselves? I know when my wife and I were wedding photographers, what we would do sometimes, you can question the ethics of this, but we would pose as a couple and reach out to wedding photographers to be like, what do you charge, right? Because it was like you said, no one posted their prices online, and we just didn't have enough rapport in the industry to just reach out and ask and compare, right? So I'm curious, like, walk me through some of that process of how you start to develop pricing and so on and so forth.
Well, I've been charging for lessons since I was like 16. I started teaching really young. And so it started growing since there. Naturally. When I moved away I had a few students during my time in Waterloo, but then picked up more students again in Toronto. I would do house visits and would take the streetcar down college, and I had some neighbors who I taught, and it was the best. I loved it. My first lesson was a half-hour walk away. I'd get my violin and just like truck across Toronto. And so there I fell into more of a Toronto pricing, but also I was still a student in school and I needed flexibility. So my pricing structure was more flexible at that time. As soon as we got to a point where pretty much when the pandemic hit, I got a little bit more structured and specific about my pricing and put more thought into it, we'll say. And then at that point, some of my Toronto students, the pandemic, it's like it hit, and then everyone I found in Toronto, everyone I knew, it's just like everyone went back where they were from. And so a lot of my students actually moved to new cities. So one of my students, they moved to Seattle, Florida. You also had your Louisiana student at that point. So we were pricing for Toronto, but we were also pricing for
the U.S.
other it was like what do you do with that? So I ended up sticking mostly to Toronto pricing and kind of using that as my ceiling. And then when we moved to Quebec City, that was a whole other thing. And then so over time it's shifted, I think, for the better, and for us, our needs are being met, and that is really awesome. But now our structure is, it went from hourly flexible to now we do monthly flat fee. So we live in a subscription world, and it's easier to kind of set and forget for everyone, especially on the admin side, like that no one likes to talk about money. And certainly we don't want it to be something we're talking about during lesson time.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's been a game changer, I think, with also like recycling the process and just being able to be upfront right at the beginning, like, here's what we do. If that doesn't work for you, we're willing to talk about it case by case, because we want to be a good fit if possible, but here's what we do. And it's been really great.
I like that. So you've nested into the ways that your clients are already thinking about money and pricing and other things in their lives, and kind of tucked into that in a way that feels very natural, right?
Yeah.
I will say that we are still below market in terms of Toronto prices.
Yes.
And I think we found like a pretty good, like we're not trying to undercut the competition to try and get the business. I think we're inward focused in terms of we know the value we offer, and we're good with the valuation that the fees represent. But we're not looking around and seeing what everybody else. I think we know what we like to work for. Like, we're willing to put time aside at this particular price, particularly if we know that we're delivering a good product.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, we're very like, we're more inwardly focused, as opposed to being, well, this person's charging this and this person's charging this. Well, we're better than them. Like, we avoid that like the plague.
Yeah.
But I think we've come to a place where we're pretty happy, and we raise our fees every year, not by much, but just a little bit.
Which every time I hate.
It's brutal.
I hate that day. I start to spiral. I don't like it.
We do periodically look at one another, and we're like, it's a shame money exists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an unfortunate reality, ultimately, I think. However, it's the world we live in, so we got to adapt or die, right? And so anyway, I think we found like a fairly good threshold
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we feel really confident in it.
I love that. Have you guys found when the time comes to raise your prices for the year, have you found effective methodologies of doing that where you either don't lose business or you can warn people far enough in advance? And
I think we give a lot of notice, don't we?
Yeah, so we have a 10-day pre-registration period, I guess, for our current studio members from May 1st to 10th every year. So I've already sent an email beginning of March saying, hey, put it in your calendars. Registration period is going to be at this time. If you book during those dates, you guarantee your teacher and your day and time. So essentially you can just press a button that says, keep same day and lesson time. Yep, great. Signed up for the whole next year.
wow.
So in the first set of emails that go out for the registration period, I lay out our fees are remaining the same for July through August, but they will, as of September 1st, we will be moving into a new fee structure. Here's a link to that, and then they get access to that. And so if it works for them, then that's awesome. But they have time to think about it and before the registration period so that they're not on the registration page going, oh, this is new, right? Like we give them lots of time to kind of think about it and prep for their
That's another thing
extracurriculars because there's a lot of them.
That's another thing that's been totally impressive for me to watch. Like, one of your questions was like, who's the CEO? Who's the COO? And I'm like, both. But like there are certain roles that she's much better at, frankly. And then there's other roles that she would prefer not to do. And so when we first moved here, I think I'm digressing from the question, but
take it away.
Okay. So when we first moved here, I had just quit the military. I was very much in the throes of trying to figure out how I was going to recover from my injury, and I just needed something to keep me busy. And so I started throwing myself into volunteer school visits, just like I would call. I remember like sitting a spreadsheet, putting on my lo-fi playlist from yeah. Spotify, and I'd fill out spreadsheets and spreadsheets of schools and trying to find the teachers' names, and then be like, how can I support your program? How can I support what you're trying to do with your class? What can I do? Here's what I can do. And certain schools would not reply, that you talk about like, cold calling and then rejection, like this was what I was doing. And some schools would respond really favorably, and we've got great relationships now. I'm going to play with the high school band at the St. Thomas Christian Community School.
I love that.
Yeah. In the spring. And, which is like quickly approaching. But anyway, one thing that, the roles that we play within the business, I think it fluctuates, it changes, but she sends out this newsletter, and that was not even a thing that was on my radar. It's like, what, like a monthly newsletter for the studio? Anyway, I just wanted to throw that
Tell me about that. Why'd you start doing a monthly newsletter?
I would say it's like monthly when needed.
What does monthly when needed mean? So
like
just
I'll
when
choose
needed.
beginning of term or end of term. So we do separate like September to December for different policy purposes.
Sure.
Makeup lessons and such. So September to December, January to March, April to June.
Okay.
For the 10-month spread. And as you move into new seasons, there are just dates or like even just holiday Mondays. Like, hey, just watch out. There's 5 holiday Mondays this month.
Yeah.
And here's what we do, So they have ended up over the past 2 years being like September, October, talk about recitals.
Yeah.
December, end of year. January, February's slower. I feel like we're all like in a happy place. Everyone knows what's happening. And then March, I'm like, oh, it's the end of the year. Like my brain is already 4 months from now. So, or 3 months, 4 months from now. Yeah. It's June in my head. So I'm thinking about all the dates. I'll just lay in bed at night and be like, oh yeah, I have to add that. And then I'll just whittle it down to the most important things. So my brain doesn't turn off though. You're much better at shutting down and just resting, and I'm not.
So that was going to be another question of mine because, especially when Leanne and I worked together, I feel like she eventually established a rule like no talking about work at bedtime. And eventually I had to I'd be like, well, I can still think about it. And eventually I had to stop doing that as well because I would just lay awake for hours. Not even stressed or Sunday scaries or anything like that, but just like, oh yeah, I got to do this, I got to do that. And yeah, so do you guys as a husband and wife team, do you find that difficult to like separate work from life, or do you love the way that they are so intermingled that you just own that? Like where is the line, if there is one, and how blurry is it?
I think we do a good job at balancing each other out. I'm more prone to being lazy, straight up. I think I've grown a lot in that area, I would say, for sure. It helps that I like what we're doing, so I'm more motivated to get stuff done. However, she is so highly competent and so able that she could probably carry all of it on her back.
But I also work to cope.
That's fair.
That's
I like that
it's
you're
not
thinking of the
healthy all
caveat
the
here.
time.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, that's why you need jobs.
So
That's why we balance each other.
And so she can see me on the couch being like totally chill. There's a mountain of stuff to do, and I can be totally fine with it, not doing it.
In her mind, it's
and she's like, "What's like?" But anyway, so I think for us, it's just we like to have our debriefs, right? And so at the end of pretty much without fail, at the end of every teaching day, we'll sit down. Maybe we'll have some kombucha or sparkling water or other things, and we'll just talk about the challenges of the day. And very often we have great ideas for each other's problem or challenges, we'll say.
A lot of the time we'll talk and we'll be like, man, we should have pressed record on this.
Yeah,
this
literally,
this
could be
do it.
Yeah, well, we're
I'll
getting
be
there.
your first subscriber.
All right, hey, done. But no, so those debriefs are necessary. It helps to, first of all, she's learned the value of brain dumping, and I've learned the value of creating lists. It's really satisfying to put the checklist. So those are kind of some ways that, and then it gets off the brain. And then she's been really good about, leaving her phone outside of the bedroom. Like just
I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah. And we've actually, one thing that's actually helped us to relax at the end of the day is we just got a record player.
Oh,
We're moving away from the streaming realm.
man, you guys sound like us.
It's good. Great minds think alike. But so there's actually so funny story. We were getting ready for one of our summer recitals, and people were garage sailing. It's Saturdays is when we used to do them, and so there were garage sales around, and so we're like, well, hey, we've got everything set up. We're way ahead of schedule. Do you want to just garage sale for a bit? And I'm like, sure, why not? So we go and we look and we see there's this bin of records, old records, but they were of Philadelphia Orchestra, La Mer, Debussy, all these really great recordings of classics, the classical orchestral classics essentially. And so I'm like, oh, it's $1 for La Mer, let's do it. And so we bought a couple of them, and we'd the objective was to find supports for our posters at our recital. So
I just had
refreshments.
idea.
Yeah. So refreshments table. Let's have a sign. Oh, but we don't want to pay for good card stock, right? So why don't we just buy $1 record, and then it's oh, they've got a classical recording behind the refreshments poster or whatever it is, and various other things. So we have a few of those records, but we didn't have a record player, and this was a couple of years ago now. And Jess has this wonderful record table that has a top surface and a lower secondary, but then clearly spaces for records. And so it's okay, well, we can, when we're done with them at the recital, we can just put them there, and then it's whatever.
Add to
It'd
my
be cool to have a record player.
collection.
Exactly. So anyway, and she's been wanting a record player for a while. I grew up with a record player with my dad, and he had all of it, from early, anyway, all of these composers. He had a bunch of collections. Anyway, we finally got one, and we threw on Claude Debussy's La Mer at the Philadelphia Orchestra, and we sat there. She had a glass of wine, I had a little whiskey, and it was an experience as opposed to I'm just going to flick on some Spotify and get some work done. But we actually sat and we listened and I'm like, oh, that trumpet player is very nice. Oh, that string section is silky smooth. Or, man, Lamere, Debussy was such a genius. Give me some minimalism. What is it? Impressionistic. Yeah, that's right. That was his era or whatever style. I'm not a very educated musician. I'm a practical musician. But it turned music into an experience for us again. And it helped us even slow down further and then rediscover, I think. Because when you work in a place, I think you can lose the kind of like the essence of the beauty of it a little bit.
The magic a little. You see
there,
behind
that's
the
it.
curtain.
Yeah,
right?
that's it.
Yeah.
That's totally it. And so having the record player is like pretty sick. So that's another way we've turned it into like music back into something we can enjoy as opposed to something we work for. If that makes any sense.
Absolutely,
There's a whole.
it does.
That's like a whole other
I love that.
crazy.
When I was a wedding photographer, well, even when I just did it for small businesses and things, there was a stretch where I went 50 days, just shy of 50 days, where I took photos of our family every day. So I walked around with all my professional gear and just documented our life. So it was like going to the zoo or just like going to the park and just like boring everyday things. And
The
I
zoo
think
is
to this
sick, though.
day, I know the zoo is actually cheating, but more boring things like we bought a minivan. Let's take it out and let's go take a nice photo of it because it's cool and it was something interesting that happened in our day. And the goal, that was when Instagram, you could only upload 10 photos at a time. So I was trying to fill 10 photos a day of our day. So that also involved the discipline of like sitting in bed for an hour or two at night, editing these photos, finishing them, uploading, like everything done and dusted, right? But to this day, that is like, I think still my favorite photography project I ever did. It was just
That's
like
cool.
a random 50 days, but because it took it away from being work and it was like, no, this is just for me. This is just mine again. And so I love that. I love that. I've refrained from buying a record player. Leanne and I are probably both getting closer and closer, but refrained from buying one only because of the financial investment. And we're like,
Yeah.
I got all these kids and stuff, you
Yep.
know,
Yeah.
life's
Yep.
expensive. I just became self-employed. So like, I'm like, oh, one day when I have money, I
It's
would
an
like
expensive
to,
hobby.
I would like to have it. I've made the deal with Leanne. If we do that, I would only buy, with very rare exception, I would only buy, like classical music or like, I really like random bits and pieces of jazz music. Like, I'm really not a proper jazz guy, but like you throw in anything from the 60s, I could probably find something to enjoy about it. So I'm like, anything like that big band stuff, I'm like,
yeah.
any of that. So I'm like, I would ideally go to garage sales and other things where people are selling them dirt cheap and just buy those. So it'd be a collection of music that I have no idea who it is or the significance of it, but I just like to put it on and listen to it. So it's coming. It will get there someday.
Well, and you're investing in maybe future, date afternoons because we have recently enjoyed going to. There's Reed's Records in
Shout
St.
out
Thomas.
Jason Reed.
And we get a coffee. We go and we just flip through the stacks. It's very fun.
Yeah.
And
We just recently got I have bought 2 Frank Sinatra great worth every $8 of those from Reed's Records, and that guy is really cool, so you should go check out his store. And also I got this one's there's some significance here to this one. I got Chuck Mangione. Do you know who Chuck Mangione is?
I know that name for sure.
So he's like the flugelhorn king, the late Chuck Mangione. He just passed away recently, actually, within the last year, I would say. And anyway, but he's playing. The album was recorded with the Hamilton Philharmonic Orchestra when the original members of the Canadian Brass were filling those brass sections.
What?
So Chuck Dellenbach, Eugene Watts, Ron Rahm, Fred Mills. That was a cool find. I
heard you across the room. You're like, no way. I was like,
that's when you know something good is happening.
it's fun.
Like that's Canadian Brass and Hamilton Philharmonic are like Canadian institutions, man.
Yeah.
And the fact that you found an icon in Chuck Mangione playing with that, and I thought it was like a really cool intermingling of the storylines there. I nerded out hard on that.
Leanne's fallen in love with thrifting over the past year or so it would just give her another reason to go to thrift stores. So we're about this close to stocking up on DVDs and VHSs and things.
Oh yeah,
well.
Nice.
Just as they're
Analog.
so cheap and
unplugging from the ease of access.
It's painful to never own anything.
Yes.
And there is something like very satisfyingly nostalgic about physically having to enjoy whatever media it is, right? So
putting the record on the record player is still something that's very tactile and enjoyable.
Very nice.
Oh, yeah. Well, even I've got an album or two like digitally, but they were recorded off of actual records. Yeah.
I got it. Sorry.
If you're listening, John was reaching for a pop and almost fell over.
But it's low-cal.
He saved it. And yeah,
I'm so sorry,
Sparkling
dude.
water. Incoming.
Podcast etiquette. Don't do that. Okay, sorry about that.
But listening to even just a digital recording of an actual record, and I was shocked at how much, especially, depending on the record, but just the static and the little, you're like, oh, just to listen to that, even though I'm cheating because I'm listening digitally, like, man, that is satisfying. There's something very nice about that.
And like, it's shocking how good those vinyls are, how good they sound. It's shocking to me.
Oh, yeah. Everyone says it, and then you experience it, and you're like, oh, yeah, there is something here.
Yeah.
All right, I've got 2 more questions for you guys. The first one is highly sentimental. Just because I have a soft spot for husband and wife teams, what's your favorite thing about working with each other? Name one. Like, you guys have already done a very good job singing each other's praises, which, again, I'm like, I love to hear it. That's great. But can you name something? Whether something your partner is really, really good at, or something that you're just like, man, when they do that, they're in their element, or just like, I'm so glad they do that, so I don't have to do that. You can take that take that in any direction you would like.
Can I go first?
Yeah.
John is like extremely personable, and he just makes you feel comfortable right away. And his outwardness and like ability to connect with someone.
Kids call that aura.
Aura.
Yikes.
The kids these days. His aura is just outstanding.
Put that in a social media clip and you'll get
find a way to say 6'7".
Yeah.
That's funny.
Actually, I recorded a podcast episode with another person on Wednesday, and I said 6 or 7, and he just quietly did.
8, 9.
8, 9. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Go on.
No, but it inspires me because I'm definitely more quiet and reserved until you get to know me, and then I'm like a bit more outward with what I'm passionate about and how I am. It takes more time.
Can I add a correction to that?
Sure.
She's not quiet.
No.
She's a very refined individual. And so she's more willing to take risks with when she's comfortable. However, she's also very good at engaging with people. When you get to know her, you get the very refined Jess. Still engaged, still authentic. However, but when you get to know her, though, she starts taking some risk, and she's very funny. Very funny and very personable as well.
Very sharp is how I would describe you, Jess.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, 100%.
Thank you.
Quick-witted and, right there.
Appreciate that.
I mean, that is the highest compliment, so.
Oh, it's my turn. Well, I think I just... Is it my turn?
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah.
So Jess is a refined individual.
I'm like, you already said so much.
So, but one of the things that I'm truly grateful for having Jess as a partner, first of all, she's an admin powerhouse, like unparalleled. She's so good at keeping track of stuff, and she's even so good at admin. She has helped me get better at my own admin, which is really great. When we have our debriefs at the end of the day, she's a problem solver. So when I have a challenge or I had a particular, like, what am I supposed to do? I remember, here's one story. And I'm going to change it slightly just to make it really applicable. But I had one student who, we were going through a piece and he was making all sorts of mistakes. Like there are times when the student just guesses and is going too fast, and what they need to do is slow down and read. I don't care about rhythm, get the right note, because you know how to read the music. But he was checked out and going on autopilot. And I was like, let's try it again, because you made a mistake here. And he goes, and so then he goes through, like, you still made the same mistakes. And he goes, no, I didn't. And I'm like, yes, you did. And he goes, no, I didn't. And I raised my voice, and I said, yes, you did. And I did not like how I reacted in that moment. I was not pleased with myself. so I talked with Jessica, and actually one of her colleagues was over as well. We're a good friend. Maid of honor, actually.
All of the above.
Yeah. And so we were talking about it, and the solution for me was Timmy, right? I don't know. That's not his name. Timmy, you and I both know you made the mistake, and we're not going to argue about it. So let's just slow it down and give. And so that was like, I'm like, oh, that is so good. I don't need to lose my cool. I just need to learn how to communicate better what needs to go on. And every single time I've used that line with it, I'm super calm, super cool. Every time I've used that line with a student when they get kind of talk backy, right? And I don't necessarily want to be like, don't talk back to me, because I just don't care to say that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's really funny when they talk back. And I enjoy it, frankly. But it's like, you and I both know you made that mistake. Let's try it again. And it's like, I've never gotten an argument back with that. So it's been amazing.
You're exuding a confidence when you say that, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't need you to agree with me because we both know.
Yeah.
That it's like, it's almost inarguable, right?
Yeah.
That's very good.
And that was
really
one of those.
I'm gonna remember that for my kids.
Sure.
Because that's really good.
It's a brilliant. So anyway,
Leanne will remember it for me.
So that is one thing that I'm truly grateful for, is there's an abundance of creative problem solving that comes from my wife when we have our debrief sessions, which is like, it's invaluable.
I love that.
Yeah. Also, she's beautiful, and it's really nice to look at her.
Can I say more about Jon? Because I'm feeling there's not balance.
We're gonna need a lot longer.
All right, Jess gets the last word. If
Part 2
like
episode.
Well, finishing my thought, like because you are so personable, you are able to just quickly jump into jobs that I would rather not do, and I really appreciate that. Like the on the ground stuff, when he did take flyers and did go out, I'm like, safe at home, like
cozy.
Nobody can say no if I'm here to meet. Like, there's no rejection. You just do it, and you always come back with great stories when you do. And so I'm just grateful for that. And there's lots more, but that was the end of my thought.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I apologize.
It's okay.
I love it. You guys are so sweet. I love you. Okay, so my final question, it might put you on the spot a little bit, or it might not. And you can interpret it however you would like. What is next for Elliotson Music? So is that like expanding the teaching roster? Is that you're going to open a 25,000 square foot physical studio? Are you starting a band? Like what? Or just even philosophically, maybe it's just like, oh, I dream of doing this. Or I think when we were out at Wings the other night, you were saying about you dreamed of starting a certain type of band or something. Again, forgive my ignorance here, but
no, it's okay.
Yeah, what's next, or what's a dream on the horizon? Or
well, so Jessica is actually playing at the Stratford Festival starting this month, and she's got a long run, and so that has been a catalyst for getting another teacher on board. And so are we? Yeah, we're able to announce that, right?
Yeah, all her students already know.
It'll be a couple weeks, so usually between
right.
we film and when this goes out.
Yeah, fair enough. So we've actually, I'm pretty thrilled about this. So first of all, covering her string students is our wonderful friend Ludmilla. She also plays viola in the Vintera String Quartet, where Jess plays lead violin for the Candlelight concerts in London.
Yep.
So that's really cool, and like probably one of the most beautiful viola sounds I've ever heard.
Shout out Ludmilla.
Yeah,
you are amazing,
you're incredible.
And make us better.
Yeah, 100%. And just a delightful person, really smart, and also just lovely.
So sweet.
We've also got the principal harp from the Sarasota Orchestra down in Florida covering some of Jess's students while she's at Stratford.
Students, because you can do that when it's
right.
online.
That's right. So like we have 2 powerhouse teachers coming on board to cover Jess as she's doing just a wonderful thing over at Stratford. She's actually playing with one of my old trumpet teachers, Larry Larson, the former principal trumpet of the Kitchener-Waterloo Orchestra. And so this is kind of, I think, whenever we're tempted to think, okay, is this it? Something else comes out of the woodwork and something happens.
I love that.
So this
Different
is like
seasons.
Mm-hmm. And so this is a kind of an experiment or a trial run at seeing what it's like to have other people on staff. We would like to have a piano teacher, and we're taking our time and trying to find the right candidate to come on board, particularly here in St. Thomas. And so that's kind of the next thing. I have kind of ventured into the ensemble realm where I actually I teach band to a bunch of kids over at the Bridges homeschool co-op here in St. Thomas. And I'm hoping that, I mean, that's been growing. This is our second kind of iteration. I did a 12-week class starting last year in February, so it's actually been a year. And then we're in the midst of a 29-week program that started in September. So that's been on the up and up. And then because they're keeners and they're doing a great job down there, like it's likely that program's going to keep growing and we're going to get better and better. And so, but the dream, I think for me, while I do love teaching one-on-one, and there's a lot of fun there. I would love to do more ensembles. Like if I thought down the road I could have a competing band and a developing band or training band, that would be so cool. And I would like to get back into performing again. While I'm on the road of recovery with my injury, so that's going well. I'm still not where I'd like to be. The dream would be to get back to performing, but not necessarily taking auditions, but to contribute my part of performing to St. Thomas. That would be a great thing.
Love that.
That's yeah.
Yeah, for me, I think, I've got some performance stuff coming up, which is that balance of performing and teaching is what keeps me like alive in my enjoyment of music. So I'm really excited for that to happen and to take a little step back and have my students experience another perspective. And like, there's so much wealth to be gained from these two teachers coming on. So I'm really excited for that. And then something we've been talking a lot about is group classes. So violin ensemble would be what I would want to do. And then last year, outside of the homeschool co-op, you did an 8-week.
That's true.
We had an 8-week band program, so we're probably going to do that again this summer. And then theory classes is another thing. We're just passionate about well-rounded understanding of music, and it's really hard to get theory in a lesson all the time.
Yeah, it's true.
Consistently.
Yeah.
And so talking about how we can facilitate more focused theory learning time.
Do you guys
Things are in the
love
works.
theory, or is it?
I love theory.
Yeah, she does. Yeah.
I'm a huge theory nerd.
Oh, that's cool.
Like, she's not kidding.
I get excited about how it scratches something for me. Yeah, I love theory.
That's so cool.
So yeah, talking about that, and then another group class idea that I would love to start is like Mommy and Me, just like from the ground up, getting kids interacting with music, and also community for young moms. Like, I think that would be just really great. And so that's been on my radar for a few years. It's just we just had some busy personal seasons happen, so you can only do what you can do.
Yep.
And then long term, I'd love a brick and mortar somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
I would love
That'd
that.
be awesome.
But all
you
in
recently
time.
moved and now have like a much nicer space.
Yeah.
Based on, I saw like an Instagram tour real quick. It looked really nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll have to have
it's
you over
been
sometime.
great.
I would love
We
that.
can
Yeah.
both. We're like half our house is dedicated to our studio,
Work,
but it's a little bit of life work separation, which is actually been awesome. I feel like I can work more fully and life more fully that way. So that's been really great. And we both have our own teaching space.
That goes back to one of your previous questions, is like, how do we kind of shut things down?
That's been so helpful.
Honestly, just climbing the stairs and going upstairs does just a wonder.
Yeah.
For me, it's
does a wonder.
walk through the backyard.
Yeah.
Like
Brilliant.
literally, when we first moved here, this space was not ready to be an office yet, so I was in the basement, and it was shocking how much sound transference there was.
Oh,
in
yeah.
our old house in Hamilton, I was on the 3rd floor, and then Leanne would spend most of her time with the kids on the 1st floor, and just the layout, no sound transfer wasn't really a big deal. But it was like, oh boy, I'm eager to get out to the doghouse to build this, just from like a my ability to focus and my wife's ability to be, not my wife, but my kids especially, be loud or just have the TV on or music or something. So that, I relate fully. The separation makes a big difference.
And when you're working with a trumpet player, right?
Yeah, you're not
so
quiet.
It's huge. So we did make, I should do a tour of my office, really. Because
we should do a tour.
Yeah, we should.
We're not really great at our own Instagram stuff, but we try.
We do
You
try.
just need to be good enough. That's
Just
all
good
it is.
enough.
Just
No,
good enough.
that's
So
encouraging.
in my office, I've got sound panels on the wall and then guitar hangers. So there's like a decor, but they serve a purpose for sound absorption. And then, like in home ownership, like I'm just getting into it. So, the big boy job of installing soundproof insulation. That was like, okay, Johnny's going to learn today, so, but there's been some things that we've done that has really improved the sound bleed. So it's actually going so well. In terms of like not being distracted by that honking of a trumpet or scratching of a violin or whatever it is.
It does lend itself though to like you walk down, take your shoes off, you're in a waiting area, you can hear the lessons going on, and even
it's a vibe.
When I'm teaching violin and you're teaching trumpet, like we can hear you, but it is so in the background for me now, like for both me and the student, because I was conscious about it last night. I was like, oh, this student is really unbothered. And it just lends to this like music studio vibe, atmosphere. That's what we had in school. You hear the person next to you practicing, you're like, ooh. Well, they sound really good. I better get to work.
Yeah.
It
is there's a nostalgia there, which is also really cool.
Yeah, it's an atmosphere, right? It's immersive in that way, I would imagine. Even just as you're describing it, I can picture how I'd feel. I'm like, there's something, again, like a warm vinyl record, like very satisfying and comforting about this, right? You guys, this has been so much fun. This has been a long time coming, so I'm really glad that this finally worked out. Thanks for being on the show and sharing so much of your knowledge and expertise. And we should probably do this again sometime.
Oh, I'd love that. What a pleasure. Thanks for having us in. Thanks for the invitation. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, man. My pleasure. Thanks. And that's our episode. Thank you so much for tuning into the Amplifyr Podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Aidan Hennebry. Make sure to subscribe to the Amplifyr Podcast on all your favorite streaming platforms. Shoot me an email at aidan@amplifyr.ca if you'd like to consider being a guest on the podcast. And until then, we'll catch you in the next episode.